Welcome. Welcome.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
Welcome. I see everyone is here, but he couldn't make it. I see Bernice. Thank you so much. Well, welcome SHE Summit 2024. We are ready to explore on the panel, highlighting women leading tech startups amidst global tech challenges. Well, this is a very close topic to my heart because I believe most of us here are tech founders. And my name is Lingetao. I am happy to guide this conversation through. So if you're watching us, please feel free to engage with us. It's going to be very hot here. And before we get diving in, let me share some few statistics that I read. According to McKinsey, 17% of venture capital dollars goes to women-led companies, 17% only. And another statistic that I found out is that 15% of VC general partners, that is in the US, are women. 15% of VCs are women. That's quite worrying, though it's an upward trajectory. However, I also pride myself in where I come from, that is Nairobi, Kenya, in Africa, whereby 78%, not 78, sorry, around 80, there is no clear statistic on that, but Africa is the leading continent with more female founders and female-led businesses. So this is something that I really take pride in, and we're here to dine together, share experiences from various sides of the world. Well, I'll start with you, Tiffany. What has inspired you to start your tech venture, and what global challenges does it address?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me, to speak on this panel. So Cowrie, what I'm building is an experience to help individuals of color who are interested in healing retreats to discover those retreats, community hosts, and like-minded groups, making that easier. This originally started from me seeking to escape from unfortunately workplace challenges that unfortunately many of my colleagues who identify as someone of color have endured. And in this desire to escape, found myself facing the same challenges that I found in the workplace or experienced in the workplace on healing retreats. And that didn't make sense to me. And as I, went throughout the retreat, I felt that my healing journey was being impacted by the inability to show up as my true self amongst individuals of, my kin. And with a lack of representation of people of color in travel, in the travel industry, this perpetuates a dangerous narrative that people of color aren't entitled to experience rest and joy. And those, compounded issues, despite the fact that people of color in a study in 2020 have contributed roughly $51 billion in annual revenue, alone in the travel industry, there's still that lack of representation. So what Cowrie does in wrapping this up, or what Cowrie is, it's, for those who don't know, the name represents a former trade currency amongst African, Asian, Latin American, indigenous diasporic communities. And as a name signifies collectiveness and investment in the prosperity of these communities, I'm seeking to create an opportunity, an experience that serves as a gateway for these communities of color to unplug and to connect with the community of kin.
That's wonderful, Tiffany. I think I even have a cowrie shell. I do have a bracelet that has the cowrie shell. Let's go to you, Koba. You are an amazing tech founder. And there are, of course, challenges that you have faced in your journey. And kindly, would you just tell us some of the challenges that you have faced at your startup?
Yes, thanks. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for this opportunity to have this discussion with you. Yeah, maybe I just say something about the startup, about what I'm doing. Yes, I'm the founder of Robocoba company. This is one thing. This is company which help young people be involved in this immersive environment from the field of culture, art, and education, because I am from art background. But the main things which I'm doing right now is to be founder and CEO of SensiVR Help startup, which you mentioned. This is the startup which creates solution for child development, help children mostly with neurodivergent issue. We've developed them cognitive, behavioral, and motor skills by using virtual reality technology. So the technology which we are here to talk about. Yeah, as a founder of this startup, I become with many of different challenges, I can be honest. But I think the biggest challenge for me as a founder was the diversity of the team. For me, it's very important to have a diverse team, and for me, at the beginning, it's very important to take like a voice that we have to be neurodivergent to create something unique, something which can have real impact in the world. But as we know, the system is lack of this, I think, understanding of being different, of bring some value as a different diverse team, and usually we have like other education system is coming to be like learning us how to be neurotypical instead of neuro divergent. So my challenge was to learn like the first thing, like involve to the team people from with different expertise, with different level of expertise, with different genders, with different economic background, I can say. But other things was to how to learn to speak with those people, because yeah, I didn't realize in the beginning, like founder, that everybody from different field, I can say from medical field, from technology field, from creative field, have different language, different mindset, like not language of nationality, but language of specific industries, and bring all of these fields together and create something which can be really powerful as a product, as a solution, make me the most biggest challenge as a leader, as a woman tech industry founder. Yeah, I think I can say like that.
That's impressive. I mean, come to think of it, and I'm hearing the outstanding challenge right now is diversity. I think that is something we need to voice out, and I think platforms like GatherVerse, where we can express these kind of challenges. Tess, you have a very wide experience in this tech startup ecosystem. I want to learn from you. What are the strategies that you have learned over time to scale up your startup?
Yeah. Hi. Thank you again for having us. This is a great platform to talk about. Yeah. As far as strategies, so I have had a business for about 18 years, but I've only recently got into the VR business. My business is X Renegades. It's a part of my bigger business, which I've done website design and lots of different things over the past 18 years. But X Renegades is more. We focus on three main things. We focus on helping healthcare and education implement virtual reality labs or immersive tech. We're also trying to get some grant funding, which is a huge, issue in this world, especially for women. There's just not a lot of opportunities for that, or it doesn't seem like that. That's kind of a challenge for me. But we're trying to implement headsets into schools. I know there was on the last panel, there was a group of women who were talking a lot about, how do we do this, and they can't afford it. That's what we're trying to solve. We are also starting to teach immersive technology classes to kind of have people understand what the technology is and how to utilize it. While we're all very versed in technology, there are a lot of people in this world who are not, especially educators. So we're really focusing on that. As far as like strategies, I've worked in tech over the last 20 years. It has definitely changed. Keeping up to date on things. I am constantly on LinkedIn. That is a huge venue for me. I've learned tons about marketing. I've not I have a associate's degree, but I feel like the world is where you can learn things, and there's so many wonderful people in the world. That's one thing that I recommend to people who are starting a startup or who are just getting into a business or have an idea, is to go talk to the people who are on this panel or the people who are at any of these panels. Most of them have some kind of background, some kind of way of starting something. They all have great ideas, or they know someone to go to. I had a mentor, actually, in my professional life. I actually just left my real-time job, and now I'm all startup. But I had a mentor who was really like, you should do this, you should go for it. Here's kind of like all the people I know, and they can help you with the business front, that kind of thing. And so I had a lot of friends, like I have an accountant who's a friend, who actually kind of helped me through, getting an LLC and understanding what a startup is and how maybe to get funding for that. I wouldn't be anywhere without those mentors. So definitely find that. And if you're looking for someone, definitely reach out. I am happy to help you, because no one should have to struggle through getting a startup started.
Wow, that's impressive. So if you need a mentor, Tess is available for you.
Yes.
Welcome, Bunny and Debbie. Perhaps I'll address you, Bunny. I'm coming to you, Christina, next. Bunny, you're from Nigeria. You're my homegirl here in Africa. And this side of the world has its own different share of challenges and all that. So how do you navigate the demands of this innovation, depending because of where we are from, and running the realities of a startup? Do you get the difference? Do you get quite the question? How do you quite balance? I understand where we come from. Sometimes internet connectivity, accessibility, these are the things that we're still trying to address. And there's so many overarching challenges when you start a startup without these crucial elements. So tell us, perhaps, let us learn from you. How do you just balance the whole issue?
Okay, thank you so much for that. And I think Tess basically just mentioned some things on how we tend to rise above these challenges that we experience, especially in the African continent. And like you mentioned, internet connectivity issues, which I was experiencing a few. And one way I would say, I'll just write to echo what Tess mentioned, is making sure that you are able to utilize the network. As the ecosystem is evolving, the technological sphere is evolving, it's expected that you learn and you grow with it. Or otherwise, I make mention of this illustration whenever I get the chance to speak at events. Some few years ago, when television came up, we saw that a lot of persons were unable to, they were scared of this technology. They were unable to flex with it. They thought it was going to take over the world and the likes, even AI as we speak. Some persons are unable to lay hold of this technology, get to understand and make use of it. And unlucky for them, if they're unable to adapt or grow or evolve as these technologies are evolving, they would be left behind. And one thing I would
Okay, sure. We wait for her to come back. Of course, these technical challenges happen. Maybe I'll go to you, Christina. For you, I want you to share a scenario. Give us a scenario where you navigated a challenge as a tech startup or female founder in this tech industry. Give us one of your best scenarios and how you navigated it. Perhaps someone here is waiting to hear that strategy from you.
Hi, Lina, and hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here, and I appreciate such platforms where we can express ourselves and share ideas. I have many stories like this because as a serial entrepreneur, including in the tech space, and today founding Tech Leadership Lab, I brought all of those lessons together in a way that can serve what we are building here as a solid structure that can help tech founders and tech startups to basically build a better world for us. I would say that one of the challenges maybe some of you faced in the tech startup land, I am not a tech founder. I'm a non-technical founder who learned tech in, let's say, on the go. And I also was very involved in the product development aspect, meaning I needed to learn everything from scratch, like ABC. And it was fun because the technical team needed to understand me, to translate me inside tech. And it was a very interesting thing. And maybe for those of the founders who are just starting and they are non-technical founders or CEOs, when you are talking tech and when you are having a prototype to build or any kind of technical product and you're working with people, software engineers, all kinds of engineers, you might face some deadlines that are not exactly the deadlines you would want to. Coming from my background, also having other startups and being a coach, a trainer, a mentor for other companies, startups and corporations alike and their CEOs, in that field, the non-technical field, sometimes you had a deadline that was like crucial to be kept. Well, when you are building something in tech, that deadline I learned very fast. It's not that exact deadline. And this was one of the biggest things and frustrations for me that I needed to keep with the team constantly. And I realized that what I thought that we can accomplish in a certain amount of time, it was unrealistic because the team was used, and in tech many times you're used that you just have the iterations over and over again, and if you just say 12th of December, that can go beyond February sometimes, and that's sometimes normal. And that was one of the challenges I overcome by getting accustomed and used, and then just reframe the entire structure and my ways of seeing things as a CEO, of talking with potential clients, with potential investors and partners in a way that they have realistic expectations. Because at the beginning, I did make the fool of myself with a couple of hour deadlines. Yeah.
That's very interesting because I think it's a stage for every founder. When we get started, we have all these magic things and illusions that are in our heads that are not realistic. But what is being a founder without that? I'm going to you, Debbie. Adaptability has been stated, according to McKinsey, as one of the biggest skill to survive in this day and age. What ways has your startup really adapted to these global challenges that have been faced by the pandemic and all these things that are rising up? Tell us your adaptation strategy, if you may.
Yes, absolutely. It would be my pleasure. Thank you for having me here, and thank you, ladies, for inspiring me. I see a lot of myself in all of you. So with the pandemic, essentially I want to say, forced me to pivot. My background is in theater production, and digital media like Tess. So I had a video production / theater company, and we had this piece that got funded based on Nefertiti, the Egyptian queen. And the concept of the piece was to create a theater in live theater production. And then the pandemic happened. So we couldn't convene. 95% of my work became obsolete. And I said, what are we going to do? Like many people. So adaptability became absolutely paramount to survival. And so we got to work, like Christina. We basically taught ourselves gaming software in 3 months. Through the grace of a colleague, he gave us his ex-fur coat hanger space, and we converted that into a green screen studio. So YouTube University was a very real and essential piece of that adaptability. And something I want to encourage any entrepreneur, but especially women, is empowering ourselves to really search for information. It is not readily afforded to us, and that is because of biases, but it is available. Like, we live in the ultimate digital information age. And so with that, I just started to strategize, what does adaptability look like? So it looked like being resourceful, learning new technology, learning who was funding it. So once we created Nefertiti, we were outreaching to mentors. I joined the Oya Scale Up Immersive program, which is a program for Black emerging tech artists. They took me under their wing. They gave me funding. They led me to how to commercialize the project. And it went further to basically introducing me to other people who were doing that. And so the way we adapted was, if I was to surmise it, we networked, we learned, we were very ambitious to learn all aspects of tech that applied to us. And it wasn't just from YouTube, it was also from established folks. And then we created space. So currently, I am the fellowship director for the IBPOC Fellowship for Emerging Artists at Performance and XR Conference. And I started that because I realized not only am I a woman, but I'm also marginalized as a woman of color, a Black woman. So creating space to kind of move along with the wave of the new era of digitization was also part of that adaptability, because if you have these skills or it's this desire, it can very much land flat if you don't have the right container to support it. So
Bernice, you're back. You are telling us about how you navigate innovation amidst your very unique challenges. Would you kindly mind proceeding?
Okay, yes, and sorry for that network interruption. And yeah, so I was just trying to give a heads up as to how we are able to navigate challenges that we do face. Is firstly, that is why we created the ecosystem called Women in Blockchain Africa, to merge or to limit the diversity, the gap, bridge the gap between the dominant men being dominated in the blockchain ecosystem. And I think this is one way we are able to solve the problems with regards to women's underrepresentation in the blockchain and even in the tech ecosystem. And one way, like I would always say, is that if you have idea, working with women for over the past few years, I realized that women have so much wealth of knowledge and ideas, and sometimes they just lack the capacity or even the drive to bring forth these their ideas into life. And one thing I would always make mention of is the fact that if you have those ideas, or if you have some amazing initiatives that you're looking forward to bring forth, one way is to make use utilize communities. Work with people, network, like Tess rightly mentioned, network with people who share similar vision, goals, and aspirations with you. You need a mentor as well, and in order for you to make those ideas come into life. And that is one way you are known to you. You are actually solving a problem and creating a safer space with regards to the challenges that we do face. Talking now with regards to the underrepresentation of women in the technological space. And that is one way I think women or even people too would want to utilize. And that is what I think I have also been able to do, bringing forth ideas into life and making sure that we're able to bridge the gap. Yeah.
Thanks, Bernice. And I want anyone who can jump on this, the role of feedback. How many of us are very vulnerable to receiving feedback? I mean, receiving feedback requires a lot of vulnerability, especially when you're just starting out and you're launching your startup. Perhaps anyone can jump in and tell us what the role of feedback has played in growing up the startup, or perhaps scaling the startup. Anyone can jump on this.
Yeah.
Debbie? Okay, Debbie, then Christina.
Any entrepreneur realizes that the work is as much inner work as it is outer work. The ability to be humble and kind of fail forward, so to speak, is an absolute skill. So I think maybe when I was starting out, I was a little bit more starry-eyed or deer-eyed and, you know, hopeful, I would say, but maybe a little bit, maybe I overshot my abilities. But with my mentors' kind of guidance and some humility, I really learned the value of not seeing it as negative, but seeing it coming from a loving place that would take me to the next level.
Oh, nice. Christina, tell us you.
Yeah, sure. For those working with me, they know that this is one of the main topics every time and from the start, especially when you are building a team. I also translated this in coachability, meaning you can take constructive feedback without thinking that the world ends and taking it as personal as possible, because only through feedback and just gathering all that information from the world, you can truly have that 360 degree glance, where you can grasp a little bit just the truth. And of course, this also comes with age, because when we are very young, we are right all the time and we know everything. So this comes, unfortunately, with a lot of headaches and struggles in the background.
That's amazing. Tess, please make your contribution.
Yeah. So I think, for me, for customer feedback was huge. When I first started kind of implementing these VR labs, I have to have that customer feedback to say, we don't like this product. We do like this product. Can you help us with this? That's my whole business is on feedback. Like I have to have, buy-in from education and kind of getting, that kind of educator at the teacher level, the administrator level, the president of the college level, that kind of thing. So I live, breathe, and die on feedback from people. And yeah, sometimes it's not always great. You kind of have to roll with the punches, especially, being a CEO of a small startup. Not everyone's going to like what you have to offer. And you just kind of roll with it, let it roll off your shoulders. But Christina, you were right. When you're young and you're in this business, you're like, oh, you're wrong. I'm not going to take your feedback. It's definitely much appreciated by so many people, and so many people are not doing it in a negative way. They're really like trying to like boost you up, and that feedback, they've probably already been through it. So you should, take it with a grain of salt, but also listen to it as well.
Nice. We are all about sharing stories. Can anyone just volunteer and tell us their failure story, which I believe it's a lesson story, if I reframe it? Please, anyone who wants to share their failure story? Maybe I can go first, perhaps. One of my failure stories was one of my startups that we had started. We were very delusional. We had this epiphany moment where we had an idea that revolves around augmented reality and logistics. So we started approaching everyone with the mindset of we need to get funding from you first before we start getting customers, and it doesn't work that way. You get customers first, you prove your concept, and then you can now start raising money from VCs and angel investors for you to scale. So that was one of my failure stories, and it ended up as a lesson because the startup didn't go well, but we're hoping to revive it soon. It was even actually ahead of its time. We were doing something that was very ahead of its time, being in a continent where these things are still emerging. It's better to solve a problem that is very it's pressing to people, not what you think it's futuristic. People first should be your approach when you're starting a startup. That was my story. Perhaps I want to hear from more of you who has a failure story, and could you please share it with us?
I can jump in on this one. I don't want to frame it as a failure. I think there's just so much negativity behind the word of failing that we kind of like need to shed, that actually prevents people from wanting to actually try when we kind of shape everything as a failure that did not happen. So that was one of the things that I had to learn in shifting my mindset from, this is not a failure, but a situation that just did not meet my expectations. Now that I know that the situation did not meet my expectations, how do I move forward? And Cowrie, for some folks who might be joining and know me in my journey, it started, I started working on it in the ending of 2020, early 2021, and it was a different platform. Same, idea around supporting communities of color, same name, same emphasis on, helping communities of color to thrive. The focus, however, was slightly different in a sense that as someone who has either participated on business employee resource groups or have led some, we would have generally, from seasonally, held programs where we could get the company or folks in the company excited about supporting whatever group was leading that initiative, the ability to invest in, let's say, if I was part of the women's business employee resource group, to invest in women-led organizations. And so we would get money, funnel it, and keep a track of, how well the company, we were representing the company in supporting diversity-led organizations. I do want to pause really quickly and just put it out there in the midst of all this DEI nonsense that I know there are a lot of folks in HR who are doing their damn thing, but all the unsung heroes who are business employee resource groups who do not get paid for this work. They do not get paid for this work. They are forced in a situation where they are compelled to lead these groups for free internally because of situations where companies are cutting these programs, and leave us in a position where we have no choice but to create internal community. So the platform was originally meant to support those initiatives, both from a funding perspective, but community engagement perspective. And it hit me really hard when I started to see shifts in the companies I was working with, but also other folks who were building something along the lines, with pauses in what they were building or quick pivots. And that signaled to me, this is probably, as much as it hurts, I'm too close to it. For one, it's very emotional, right? It's going to be, if I know this is a challenge to kind of separate myself from this, I need to take a step back and like reevaluate how I move forward with having impact. And second, I do need to make sure that, in the shift that I do change or make, that, I am taking this information and acting on it. So it's not a failure, it's a lesson learned. And I'm damn sure that if whatever direction Cowrie does, turns out to have, that I know the mission in my heart will stay true, and it will be to continuously serve underrepresented groups.
Wow, that is very insightful. And I love that it comes from the heart. That means I wish you all the best with Cowrie, especially right now I'm wearing Cowrie. I wear a lot of Cowrie shells. So Koba, perhaps maybe I want to hear from you. Share with us a success story or perhaps a failure story, the one you decide to go with.
Success story or fate story. Maybe I just say something about what we cope with during our development, because I didn't mention before that the idea of SensiVR came to my mind like already 5 years ago, and because I came from a creative background, the idea was kind of easy for me to can imagination about it, and I had like little little experience with tech, because yeah, the idea of my art at all was to make technology as a tool for talk about my art. So I had this a bit of tech background, but I didn't realize that that many of I can say culture, society, and economic and medical fields is important to do. In my mind, as an artist, which already worked with technology and had like amazing idea about what I'm doing, my thinking was okay. Every part of different fields of idea of SensiVR is already discovered, and I just have to put all of this puzzle together, and probably I will be able to create startup, innovation startup. But this wasn't work like that. During last 5 years, this was not failed, but like you hear a long time already to create startup. I realized that all of the aspects from my startup are not discovered at all. I was thinking, okay, VR technology already exists. Wasn't exist for child. It's still not exist. It's still not developed properly for child development, for regulation of child for child. The medical things, I was thinking, okay, I just have to put my product, like our product, to the market, because healthcare market, like medical market, exists. But I again realized that this doesn't work at all. I have to discover at least 3 markets, free nationality markets, international markets, to understand that, for example, Polish market, which I came from, is not totally ready, not prepared for that kind of innovation of digital product. It's very poor market and special public market. And I can't put my product as an innovation which can help children just like that, because no one gonna pay for that. No one gonna, any of the investor gonna invest in this product, and any of customer or user gonna pay for that. So I had to discover different market. In that case, now I'm working in Germany. But Germany didn't have any knowledge about technology. So the idea came in UK when I was in UK. And I know that this is not filed, but the amount of different puzzle for what we are doing, it's very difficult to put together. And we already do that for 5 years, and we're still learning, and we still know that we discover all of these fields. We also sometimes have to create some product. So working with partners which have to be open for what we need, and this is like very difficult task to navigate, to be sure that idea of creating technology in pediatric healthcare system is not just to create that innovation, to create like app which already easy app for adults, which people know how to do. So yeah, I think this is that kind of strong things that we already failed lots of time with discovering, and at the same time we have a lot of success during this discovering, but it's still a process. That's my story.
Thank you for sharing. It's always a learning process. Let's talk about AI, the famous AI. Anyone who has a story to share of how AI has impacted their businesses? And do you think the rapid growth of AI is kind of scary? Tess, I saw your hand first. Let's go with you.
Yeah, so I'm a one person show right now for my startup. I do all of my note taking, I do all of my writing, I do all the grant writing. I do all the trainings. So AI has like significantly helped me in, double checking anything I write for like papers or introductions. All of my note taking in my meetings, like I don't know what I did before. Like I wrote a bunch of notes down and had tons of paper all the way around me. So thank goodness for AI note takers in meetings. That has saved me a ton of time. I can go back and search them. I use Fireflies, but any of them work. So that's been super helpful. Artificial intelligence, just in general, is a very, you're right. It can be a scary kind of place. Teachers ask me about it all the time from that kind of side of things in my business. And, they're like, what do we do? How do we prevent students from utilizing it on papers? And, it's really not preventing it. It's more of like accepting it and understanding how it works and understanding what they're utilizing it for. Kids are pretty resilient and students are resilient. And if they're going to cheat, they're going to cheat. They're going to find some other way to cheat if it's not AI. But I think, implementing that, I've had a few teachers implement it in their classes and kind of understand how to utilize it to make their students better at, because, the future, everyone's going to have it and everyone's going to use it, and it'll be like a staple. It will be just like when the computer was first introduced, it will just be something that's always there. I go back to like when I was young, it was Ask Jeeves. Now it's Google. It's just a lot of things that have developed over time, and yes, it's getting better, and yes, it can be used for scary things. And hopefully, if we educate our youngsters well, that they don't use it for those inappropriate or scary things. So I think it's a game changer for me. It has really helped my startup. But yes, there are definitely ways to not utilize it for the best things in the world, but hopefully better things become of it, and more it's stable in certain ways. So
Yeah, sure. AI is very good for assisting one-man show. I'm also a witness of that. Maybe I can go to you, Christina, and let's talk about long-term games. How do you see your startup contributing to the long-term goal of advancing the tech ecosystem?
I believe that Tech Leadership Lab is all about this because, it started as a community movement that transitioned to an action-oriented think tank where we want to focus on tackling on all of those 17 sustainable development goals. It's an audacious goal, but you know what? There are many players in this. And if we just gather together, and that is the power of communities and the right people together and teams. And I know that my team is watching me now, and they commented also, and I salute them, especially Dries, Mike, Robin, Danielle, and others who are watching from the background. And because we are a group of audacious people who are thinking long-term, we can have a difference. We focused this entire year on climate action because we found that this is the most important, impactful thing we can do right now as an emergency measure, because if we want to leave something, a beautiful earth, a livable earth for our kids and the future generations, we need to tackle this fast. And I believe that there are many players in this world that if they are brought together in the right way, they can solve many of those issues. Even yesterday, I don't understand why some of those 17 sustainable goals are not yet solved. But it's about leadership, and it's about also funds. But many times the players are amazing founders, like we have here in this panel today, and their voice is not heard enough, it's not powerful enough, and they are just divided somewhere on this planet, and they are not united together as a strong community. And maybe they lack a little bit of leadership or being put on the front seat, because one of the things we contribute for the ecosystem is to have an ethical type of view around the future where the right leaderships prevail. And I would just love to see those leaders on top of things who govern and who are responsible for millions and billions of lives and also budgets to be from that category. Long-term thinkers, empathic, kind, future-oriented, who love humanity as a whole and truly wants to live in a better present and build for a future. Because my heart breaks when I'm thinking that our kids today are faced with existential problems that we could already solve quicker than those deadlines that my head just hurt. And so Tech Leadership Lab is that kind of partner that will be your voice, the right tech founders, the right tech startups that are innovating this year inside the climate action, but after which we will tackle more goals once we have the right type of teams and infrastructure. And what I want here to mitigate is that if you bring together the right type of people and you don't see competition or you need to be the front person or the front startup, but you see this as a collaborative effort, as we are a family on this earth, that we should be united, no matter our color, gender, location, sexual orientation. These things doesn't matter. We are sharing what we have here together. And for this, Tech Leadership Lab will be a very powerful player you want to associate yourself with, especially if you innovate in anything that relates to a better future, building sustainable, innovative ways and solutions for us all to benefit.
Thanks, Christina. That was very heartfelt. Time is running out, and maybe perhaps Tiffany, there's still more challenges that we haven't talked about. I feel like you need to add some challenges that you have seen in the tech startup ecosystem, and kindly be brief. We'll go back to you.
Sure. So very quickly, I think one of the core challenges is this type of question where we're not asking the people who need to be answering it. And sometimes it does feel like, we are kind of preaching to the choir as female founders to or a group of female identifying participants. But I'd say that as someone who identifies at the intersect of many identities, specifically, being first generation, having a disability, living with a chronic illness, being, a Black identifying woman, I found that all of those served as strikes against me. Though I refuse to let it impede, my progress, but specifically the identity as being someone who's living with a chronic illness or disability, there are significantly less programs that actually offer the flexibility that individuals with diverse abilities might need. And I found that a lot of the programs are still grounded, and when I say programs, it could be boot camps, any type of founder programs, are still grounded in the idea of this hustle culture. And, it's taken me this long to get well enough to do something like Cowrie. And, I've learned that if, a space goes against what my body needs, what my soul needs, then it's not going to be for me. It'll make my journey a lot harder, but it's going to happen.
Thank you. Debbie, close the session with an advice that you would give inspiring tech entrepreneurs.
The advice I would give is be adventurous, be humble, and dream big.
That's very brief.
Yeah. There's only 1 minute. I'll just break down the adventure part. And I just want to say something about what Christina said. Everything you described to me sounds like predominant matrifocal female leadership, because all of those attributes are something that I think, female identified people naturally inhabit. And that's part of the reason why we don't really fit into the macrocosm of the entrepreneurship hustle culture world. It's because those sensitivities don't make for good capitalist ideologies. So going back to the adventurous part, I think we should, as conscientious people, not just women, learn that it's okay to step out of the box and really embrace it 100%. Be okay with failing, as you said, because it's a step in succeeding. Don't even see it as a failure. See it as a necessary step to the next level. And then, closing it with just being humble and understanding that dreaming big is essential. Obviously everything that was created came from those things. It's the humility to do it over and over again and know that you will achieve your goal. And the dream big part, which is Orion Digital's motto, it's not an internal thing. To me, it's a universal thing. Like when we can universally unite and have a vision of a better future, using our individual gifts to work as a group to achieve them, that's when I think success is achieved. So
Thank you so much. Our time is up. We would have loved to delve into more of this conversation, but we hope to see you in the upcoming summits, in the GatherVerse Summit. So thank you so much. I loved your contributions. See you next time. May our Gather be well.
thank you.
Thanks.
Be well.
Thank you.